Okay, here we are in section 12.2, which is on regression of nonlinear data. We have child mortality and income. What is the country's mortality rate for children under 5 years of age per 1,000 live births? Tell us about the income per person, measured in gross domestic product per person, adjusted for differences in purchasing power for residents of that country. Here are the data for a random sample of 14 countries in a recent year. So I took this data and I put it into my calculator. Now we first want to look at a scatter plot. Although it's telling us to transform the data to achieve linearity, it's good to look at it to begin with. So I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to look at the scatter plot of L1 and L2. So in part A, it's asking us to transform the data to achieve linearity. Now if I look at this data in my scatter plot, it's clearly not linear, but it does appear to be more like a reciprocal function, 1 over x, because I have an asymptote up here at the y-axis, and I also look like I have an asymptote down here at the x-axis. So since it appears to look like y equals x, if I made this 1 over y, that would be taking the reciprocal of this. That would make it more of x, which would give me a linear function. So I would have a line from that. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to go in my calculator and I'm going to edit my L3 and I'm going to make this 1 over y, which is L2. Now it's going to autofill all of those values in there for me. And I'm going to look and see with this new response variable of 1 over y instead, if that scatter plot would appear linear. So I'm going to go back to my scatter plots. I'm instead going to make this L1 with L3 and zoom 9 on that. And look, it looks pretty linear to me. So to check that, we do stat calc 8, L1, we now have L3, and I'm going to store it in yvars. That way if I use it, it's already there for me. And looking at that, again, a great R value, great R squared value, that's helping me. And as always, I'm going to take a look at my residual plot. My x-list is still L1. My y-list is now going to be the resids that I just had calculated. And I'm going to zoom 9 on that. I don't think I turned on my scatter plot. No, I did not. Turn on my scatter plot, then zoom 9. And that line that you're seeing is our line that we put into yvars, but it looks like a good scattering of our data. So let's continue with this. So we had transformed our data to achieve linearity by doing 1 over y. Now we're going to give the equation of the least squares regression line. Now remember we put that into y1. I'm seeing negative 5.828, but it's e to the negative 6. So my predicted, and I normally do y hat, but it tells me to define any variables you use. The easy way to do that is right there in your equation. So instead of y, I actually have 1 over y, but think of what y stood for. Y was the income per person. So I'm going to write 1 over income, and I'm going to put a hat on it to remind us that it is a prediction. It's a predicted equation. And then I'm going to go with what I had in my calculator. So that was negative 5.829, but it was e to the negative 6. I'm going to make the 0.12345 zeros, 5, 8, 3, and remember that was a negative number, and then it said plus 8.28. Now I'm going to double check first. Yep, that is also in scientific notation. So again, I have 0.5 zeros, 8, 2, 9, x. And remember remember that X was actually our children under 5. Now you could use X and Y here and then later on define what X and Y are, but why not just do it right there in the equation so you don't have to do it twice. Alright, so that takes care of our part B. Then in part C it says predict the income per person for Turkey which had a child mortality rate of 20.3. So we're going to put 20.3 in for our X, it is our input. So I have 1 over income, again it is a predicted value, is equal to negative 0.583 plus 0.829 times 20.3. Now because that is exactly what's already in my calculator for my Y, I can get out of this screen. So I'm going to quit this and I'm going to pull up vars, Y vars, enter, enter, and I'm going to evaluate that function at 20.3. Double check that's what it was. And I get that. Now I want to undo this. I want just income. I don't want 1 over income. So I'm going to do the reciprocal of this, so 1 over second answer. And that gives me what my predicted income would be. So the predicted income is 6156.65. Remember this was income, so it is money. Kind of have to remember your algebra here. Hope it helps.